Welcome back. You're still watching Game On. Yes, we just wrapped up our top 5 stories. And if you missed that, we've been talking about, of course, securing the money bag. And now it's time to talk about one who will be smiling to the bank come December when he has to fight Francis Ngannou, the Cameroonian MMA fighter. That fight with Tyson Fury will be a financial boom for the former UFC fighter. Now, according to representative from the Cameroonian, the 36-year-old will make more money from his fight with Fury than he ever did in his entire career at the UFC. Now, Ngannou and Fury are set to square off in Saudi Arabia in October, as I did say, I beg your pardon. That will be Ngannou's first fight since January 2022 when he defeated Cyril Gane to retain the UFC heavyweight title, which he had won back in 2021, but vacated that belt in January after leaving the promotion. So here to talk about a man who will be smiling to the bank come October. I've been saying December, I beg your pardon, come October 28 with Tyson Fury. We are here to weigh those options. And I've got Valentine Bambot, a sport journalist from Biu, Cameroon, joining us. Thank you so much, Valentine, for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
All right, it's a pleasure to always have you, yes. But in a similar fashion to that bout between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor, this fight between Ngannou and Tyson Fury would pit one of the most famous faces in boxing history. Now, remember that one famous face in boxing history and one famous face in MMA. And it will be undoubtedly the hugely lucrative bout. Ngannou will indeed be smiling to the bank whether he wins or he loses this bout, Valentine. What do you think?
That's true. So much has been said about this particular fight. Like you did mention, probably the two most iconic persons in combat sports. Francis Ngannou, we know that his last fight he had against Cyril, he left with just 4,000 or 440,000 US dollars after that fight. He wasn't very satisfied with what he was earning at the Ultimate Fighting Championship. That's at the UFC. That's why he left. And this is what Francis Ngannou has been talking about, how to get into the ring or to get into the octagon and get more money from a fight and be more happy after a fight. When I learned about this particular fight against the Gypsy King, I was very happy, very excited, because Francis Ngannou is going to be very wealthy. He deserves it. He's had so much time in combat sports, and I think it's time for him to start reaping the fruits.
All right, he made a big signing earlier this year, and that was celebrated around the MMA. Even a lot of fighters saying Francis Ngannou has now beaten Dana White in MMA history. But what are your personal expectations for the fight between Fury and Ngannou? Do you think it's too early for Francis to take up this kind of fight? It's going to be his first since January 2022, as they say.
That's true. The stats tells us that the Gypsy King is far more superior against Francis Ngannou because if you look at the fighter physically, he's taller, he's stronger, if I can use those words. He has a longer reach than Francis Ngannou, and if you look at his history getting into the ring, he's won more fights on knockout. And he's just an outstanding fighter, an outstanding boxer, Tyson Fury. But we must also not leave out the fact that Francis Ngannou, we can say unequivocally, has the hardest punch that the world has ever seen. That's why he calls himself the baddest man on the planet. And I think he is the baddest man on this planet and on any other planet because of the way he's built himself physically and the way he's also engaged in the sport. Yes, the numbers tell that Tyson Fury is better off, but I think Francis Ngannou has been training, he's been working hard, and eventually when October comes, he's going to have a point to prove against his opponent in the ring.
a point to prove indeed, but that will not take our attention away from the fact that he will be smiling to the bank. All right, let's wrap up that, and then I need to speak to you about the Confederation of African Football draws today for the FIFA Women's, not the Women's World Cup, the FIFA World Cup for 2026. The draws for the African qualifiers was done today in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, and we saw some tricky one over there, groupings over there from Group A to Group I. But let's focus on Cameroon. Cameroon has been drawn in Group D to play Cape Verde, Angola, Libya, Swaziland, and Mauritius. I mean, Valentine, I would say Cape Verde is a big deal, but Angola and Libya, they are movable, I would say. But this group is relatively good for Cameroon. Don't you think it's a one-way ticket to qualify for the World Cup, Valentine?
That's true, very true. But in recent times, we've noticed that the Indomitable Lions surprised us in a negative way. In a group that you would expect them to qualify, you find them having so much trouble. It's happening currently in the AFCON qualifiers, where they are finding it very difficult to qualify. Their last game is a must-win match for them if they want to make it to Ivory Coast. So when I saw the draws and I saw Cape Verde Islands, it's a team the Indomitable Lions have found it very, very difficult to beat in recent times. And Angola as well. I think these are the two major opponents that Cameroon will have in that particular group. For the other teams, Libya, Eswatini, Mauritius Island, I think the Indomitable Lions can have a smooth ride over. But Cape Verde and Angola, I think, are going to give the Indomitable Lions so much trouble when the qualifiers begin for the World Cup. Okay,
remember that their campaign at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar, a lot were calling for the sack of Rigobert Song. And I know that as we speak right now, all is not well for Fecafoot, especially for the president of the side, legendary Samuel Eto'o. There have been a call for his resignation. Do you think Cameroon will be in good state to look out for these opponents they have in their grouping and also do better than they did in Qatar?
The first step will be for the team to qualify for the AFCON that is taking place in Ivory Coast next year. Then thereafter, they can concentrate on qualifying for the World Cup. Samuel Eto'o has had so much heat, but he's a calm person. He's very stable in his affairs. He's not reacted to any of the calls from the amateur club for him to resign. He's been carrying on the business so well. The first step, like I did mention, will be for the Indomitable Lions to qualify for Ivory Coast 2023. Thereafter, they can put their energy on qualifying for the World Cup. It will be a shame that they will play so well at the FIFA World Cup 2022 and miss out on the next edition that will be hosted by Mexico, United States, Canada.
All right, we'll be holding on to your words and make sure that they qualify indeed. But what team do you think would be maybe a walkover? I would call it a walkover for the Cameroonians in that group.
I would say Mauritius Island and Eswatini. But recently in African football, you know, there is no small team. The small.
I wanted to remind you that, Valentine.
In African football, there is no longer a small team. Even the likes of Nigeria, Ghana, Tunisia, yes, they were in Port A for the draws, but we know very much well that these teams have found it difficult in recent times to against, in quote, smaller opponents. So even Libya can give so much trouble to Cameroon on a good day. So what the coach needs to do is to bring in the talents that can get the results for the Indomitable Lions. Like I said, missing out on the 2026 World Cup is not an option for the Indomitable Lions, especially as many sports pundits are looking at the group as a small group for them to easily have a ride over. And if they do miss out, it's going to be a shame.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Valentine. I'm hoping that your team, you know, keep that hope alive, that charge you've given them to make it to the 2026 World Cup. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.